I lost my first 7 amateur boxing contests. I started boxing at the age of 16. Prior to joining the club, I tried out other sports like football and running, and I was never very good at football. I was terrible at football. It wasn't my thing. So I swiftly moved on from there. And then one day I went to watch the new Creed film, which at the time was Creed number 2. And honestly, I became so interested in boxing just from watching Creed. And so the next day I called up my friend's dad, who at the time was a coach at my local boxing gym. And I said, look, I want to start. How do I begin? And that's where the journey started. At the age of 16, I walked into that gym and I never looked back. I was so invested in improving my boxing ability. I listened to all my coach's advice and I just cracked on with it. Eventually I was moved up to a higher level class, from which I was able to start sparring more regularly, pretty much get ready for my first fight. So my first ever boxing fight was on a home show for my boxing gym. I remember I was trying to get a fight a few weeks before and the bouts kept falling through, but finally I ended up getting my first fight. I remember on the day I was feeling okay, but the lack of experience hit me and the nerves kicked in. I remember I was very, very nervous. I started questioning why I was doing what I was doing, why I was looking to get in the ring, putting myself at risk. All those emotions started to flood my brain. Nonetheless, I got in there and had quite a fairly close bout. It was back and forth. I had my guard up like this, and I believe I lost that one on a split decision, but it was a good contest. And I remember walking out of the ring and thinking, I want to do that again. So that was my mindset going forward. Unfortunately, COVID hit. I was not able to box for, I believe, around 2 years. So there was a long wait before my second bout. Quickly enough, the time came around and I had my second bout, and it was at a away show. And again, just from that lack of experience and that big gap from which I didn't have a fight, the nerves kicked in. It was a scrappy contest. I was keeping it long range, shooting my shots when I needed to, and it was a pretty good performance. Come the third round though, I got a count, basically for just putting my guard up and not throwing anything back. So there was no big shot landed as such. It was more just, you're not doing anything, you need to show me something, and I didn't show anything. So I've got the count there. It went the full 3 rounds, and again was another loss. So that's now 2 losses in a row. Moving on to about a month's time from then, I boxed in Brighton, and that was a very good contest. My coach had told me leading up to this fight to focus on applying pressure on these away shows. So that's what I did. I went in there quite aggressive, which is kind of out of my comfort zone. I'd only started to learn how to be aggressive those past few weeks, and had another close contest and lost on a split decision. Now, going into my 4th contest, I was put into the Southern Counties developments. So of course, in any sort of national tournament, you're most likely going to face some good opponents. And personally, for me, looking back, I shouldn't have been put into that tournament at the time due to my lack of experience, but I wouldn't change it for anything now. You know, I learned a lot from this experience. I happened to be drawn against a Kent champion and national semi-finalist in my 4th contest. So I went up against a kid who had roughly about 15 bouts compared to my 3 bouts at the time. I managed to get in a very good headspace where I was just ready to go. Records didn't matter. I was just ready to fight, and I went in with a good mindset. I did the 3 rounds with this opponent, who was of course a very good opponent, but I had my boxing brain on, and I was able to go to 3 rounds and learn a lot from those 3 rounds as well. Moving into my next contest was a few months later. I went up against a tall, rangy kid from this club. I believe his name was Todd, and we had a brawl. This was on our home show. I wanted to make a statement. I'd had some close contests and some unfair contests. I wanted to get that first win. You know, it all felt like things had aligned and it was my time to finally get my W. I've been active, been training hard, so it looked like it was going to be my time. It was a scrappy contest. It was probably fight of the night, back and forth, both exchanging. I got a count in the first round, I believe, and then I got stopped in the third round, and it must have been with like 10 seconds to go. I was so disappointed because I believed that if I'd heard the bell, I could have won the contest. It was such a close contest, but I remember the second round, I started to land some nasty little body shots and he was feeling them. And then I remember the third round, I really took a foothold of the contest. And to be honest, I felt like I was winning. And that's why if it went the 3 rounds, there's a chance there that would have been my first W. But I got stops from a nasty shot. I kept landing to the body. That's what I carried on doing in the third round. I made it too predictable what I was going to throw at that point because all I was throwing was body shots. Near enough, and it was just all I was throwing really was a straight hand to the body, and it was landing a lot. But in this particular moment, he managed to counter as I came down. So as I dipped down to throw my backhand, he's thrown his backhand and caught me flush, and I just didn't know where I was. I was wobbling, hanging over the ropes. And the referee had no choice because he went to give me a count. But unfortunately for me, I had my arms up on the ropes, and it's a telltale sign that you're not fit to carry on because you're holding yourself up by the ropes. I was gutted, and to be honest, at this point in particular, I felt like giving up. I really did. I felt like calling it a day with boxing. I carried on training, and that feeling slowly went. For a long period of time, I was disappointed with myself. I just thought I couldn't do it. I couldn't get that win up. It seemed like a mountain to climb to get that W because I would train so hard and ultimately not feel like I was rewarded for my hard work. So about 5 months later, I got back in there and had my first ever senior bout. Now this was against a good kid. At the time, he was inexperienced. He had some good coaches behind him and he was a good boxer. So again, whilst battling demons, I got in the ring, put on probably my poorest performance I feel now even. I was just quite lackluster. The opponent was quite rangy and smart, and I was just rushing in, dipping my head down quite a lot. Not a very good performance at all. So, I took that loss knowing I didn't perform well, and I really did feel like giving up at this point. A lot of bad thoughts in this moment of time. I went through some stages of not turning up to the gym for a few weeks, being undecided of what I want to do. It destroyed the whole season for me. So I didn't box again until January. So going into my second senior contest, I had a few months of training and learning, and I felt like I was in a good position to go and have a bout and see what I can do. And my mindset at this point had altered slightly. I was trying to ignore the end result, and instead I was trying to focus more on having a good performance. I felt sharp, I felt good. Now this was my most shocking loss, and there's been a few, but this one's quite a shocker. I got knocked out in the first 10 seconds of the first round, and I was really shocked. My opponent had previously fought one of our lads from the gym maybe 2 months prior, and I thought I could beat this guy. He was like an ex-white collar, quite scrappy, and so I saw him box one of the lads from our gym, and I thought it would be a walk in the park. So I went into this bout with more confidence than my other bouts previous. I was just ready. I was feeling good, and so I get in there, go through the motions of both fighters being introduced, etc. The bell goes, I rush out, and I'm pouring out my jab. With no real intent though, I think that was the issue. No real intent, pouring it out, waiting for the shot. And I believe I throw my backhand, and at the same time, he throws a sweeping left hook. I believe it was a left hook, and it caught me flush from the chin. Yeah, I just remember hitting the canvas and kind of knowing where I was, but not completely. Also didn't like completely get knocked out, like blackout knockout. It was more flash knockdown, but I was discombobulated. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. So after this bout, I've had 7 losses, and I was distraught. I was thinking, why me? What's going on? I'm doing everything right, but I just couldn't get things to click in the ring. There was just that missing confidence that I needed, and so I was at an all-time low after this. My brain did not let me quit after this fight. I got straight back in the gym, and I just wanted to know why I lost, made some tweaks in my defense, and just kept improving, and just listening to my coaches, got loads of good sparring in. And then eventually I get a call up to box in March. So I'm training, feeling focused, weights on point, and it comes to March of that year. I get requested to jump in for someone who's making their debut in the boxing scene. His opponent had pulled out, so I got the call on like a Thursday or Friday, and the bout was for the Saturday, I believe. I said yes, it's against a no-bouter. But they were happy to take the contest because I'd obviously lost my first 7 bouts at this point. So it didn't look very good for me, I get in there and experience showed. The experience counted. Every bit of it counted. I got in there and I was landing my counter shots, allowing him to come in, and I was landing a lot to the head in the first round with my backhand. Didn't even need to use my jab that much either. I was just landing that backhand whenever he was coming in. His guard would lower each time he threw a punch. So there's always an opportunity there for me to land a counter. So I believe I gave him a count in the first, the second, and then I stopped him in the third. So the whole way through the contest, I kept landing a counter, and then eventually I stopped him in the third. And then the third round was a good round for me. I kept landing to the body. I finished it by coming up top, and ultimately that stopped the contest. When the contest was stopped, the feeling of relief more than anything was bliss. Like, it wasn't even the fact of winning as such, but just the relief of not losing again, if that makes sense. The relief was unreal, and I just felt on top of the world. I felt so good after that. And like I say, the relief was the best part about it, because I could now see that I could win a contest. And that really spurred me on to go again. So the following week I had a bout on my birthday, and it was like all stars were aligned at this point. I'd got the first dub. It was now my birthday, going to box again. I was just feeling good, feeling very, very good, in high spirits. I was probably in the best headspace I'd been in the whole way through my boxing career. I go into this contest looking very sharp. In the warm up and everything, I was feeling very sharp and reactive. So I get in there and I'm straight behind the jab, popping it out. And he was trying to rush me. It was his home show, so he was trying to rush me, prove a point. And as he rushed in, I cracked him with a left hand, and he stumbled back, and he was sort of out on his feet a little bit for a few seconds. So the referee gives him a count, and I was buzzing. I was pumped up after that. The fight ended up going the whole 3 rounds, and it was a unanimous W for me. So that was my second win in a row as well. So I was just absolutely beaming, so happy. I then had my 10th contest, and it was a good fight. It was a very good fight. I got put down once in that fight. It was against a lad from Croydon, from a gym that I know quite well. And we had a very, very good contest, both exchanging with the jabs and both landing some cracking shots as well. He ended up winning that contest, but I was pretty happy with my performance. He was a strong lad, and there was a lot of good positive things to take from that bout. Moving on, I had my 11th contest, and it was a very good performance from me. Cracking shots, I had good footwork, good movement, and things were really looking to come together, and I managed to get a unanimous win there. I then had a contest against a ex-white collar lad, from which I was feeling confident, feeling strong, but I'd been struggling with some bad eating habits, so my headspace wasn't fully focused during this time, and I actually got put down in the first round and stopped in the first round. My spirits were high. I was confident and believing in myself as well, but it didn't go my way, and that really knocks me down. So from here, I went through another episode of just feeling really down, not really knowing what I'm doing, like why I'm still boxing. I went through a really dark stage in my life where I took a fairly big break from boxing, a few months, and got into some bad eating habits, and I just had no sense of direction of where I wanted to go in life. And ultimately I was giving up boxing. I was giving it up. But for some reason my brain will not let me walk away from boxing. It just won't. And maybe that's unhealthy, but I'm so willing to improve and get to the next level and just keep learning and progress. I got back in the gym, started training, eating a lot better, and eventually I got back in there and had a close contest again, from which I lost. It was a split decision, a decent contest. It wasn't my best performance, but also wasn't my worst. It was just like, you know, I could do better than what I showed, from what I showed. So I was disappointed. However, we moved swiftly on, and about a month's time after, got back in there against a strong lad and lost again on a split, from which the whole crowd said that I won, from which the referee said I won. He thought I won the contest, as well as his coaches as well. His coaches believed that I'd won. However, if I performed better, I know in myself I could perform better than I showed there. I could have stopped him, I could have made it an easier contest, and ultimately I wouldn't have had to have heard it being a split decision. You know, if I performed better, that could have been a unanimous, or I could have got him out of there. But nonetheless, I felt like I won, so I came out of that bout eventually with a clear head and not too bummed out about it. You know, I've been here before. I've had to go through these sort of motions before of losing a bout, so that feeling wasn't new to me. So I do now know how to deal with that situation and how to react to it in the best way for myself. The following weekend, I boxed in my 15th contest against a much older lad than me, about 10, 11 years difference. Good little boxer, pretty good with his head movement and his punch variety and his pressure. It was a very good contest, and I was so game for it. I wanted to get that W. I'd had 3 split decision losses in a row, so I really wanted to get that W. A very even contest the whole way through, both exchanging, both landed some decent shots. I did allow him to be the pressure fighter, so for me, it didn't look good for the judges because I was on the back foot, and ultimately it looked like he was putting the pressure on and controlling the pace of the fight in a way, basically. So that was a split decision loss as well. So I'd now lost 3 split decisions in a row, and that gets me to where I am now, which is with my record of 3 wins and 12 losses. And to be honest, it sounds worse than it is. There's a lot of close decisions there, which could have gone either way. But the way I look at it is I just need to keep improving, and I know where my goals are. Going into the next season, which will be starting in a few months, you know, I'm looking to really have a nice active season the whole way through and just get as many bouts as possible under my belt and just see what we can do. My confidence is improving. I found a deeper meaning for my passion of boxing. You know, I feel like I'm more engaged with boxing now. I really do study the art of boxing way more than I used to. And I don't think I'd be at that stage now if I hadn't gone through what I went through. And in fact, I believe maybe my ego would have been too big if all those contests went my way and I won all those contests, or majority of them. I think there's also some downsides for me if I had gone down that route and had those sort of results. I wouldn't take back any of the results. I wouldn't do anything different. I've learned so much from my contests, from my bouts, and I'm so motivated to show what I can truly do. I know that the tide is turning, and near enough, soon enough, I'm going to be winning way more than I'm losing, with the ability that I've got and the ability that I believe I've got, which my coaches believe that I've got as well. So I'm just ready more than ever to step back in the ring and get things going again. You know, I want to end up being a national champion, European champion, go to the Olympics. You know, that's my goal for the amateurs. You know, I really want to make a statement in the amateur scene. So that's where I'm at now. Let me know what your record is down below, or if you've got a fight coming up, let me know down below. I'll be interested to hear what your record is. I'll be interested to know. I have created a boxing community which you can join by clicking the link in my bio. If you're an amateur boxer and you want further resources to expand your knowledge and your ability in boxing, then I have some resources available on my website, which will also be linked down below.